Truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. And to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most...
And this is Because Liberty with Curtis Hart.
And Chris Bornstead.
And you are listening to this on Spreaker.
We had some issues tonight with our audio, so we have to do it this way this week.
Yep.
I'm not sure if I think we'll be back live next week. But
possibly. We'll find out what the audio quality of this ends up being and determine it from there.
Right. So, we have Patrick Ryan on tonight from Stone Soup.
How you doing, Chris?
And Stone Soup is a local citizens group that holds a potluck every Saturday and feeds the homeless and the needy in our area. Thank you for that, Patrick.
Hey, you're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
Thank you for coming on the show. I was wondering if you could tell the story of Stone Soup to the listeners. A lot of people, the health department kind of shaking you down, trying to say that you're on a potluck.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this has always been billed as a potluck-style event, including down to the story of Stone Soup. So I was wondering if you could share the story of Stone Soup and why...
Just fuck the audio or what?
Possibly.
Just say no. Click no on that.
He accidentally bumped the laptop, so...
It's not a touchscreen.
There we go. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
So, yeah, it happens. So, what is the story of Stone Soup?
My wife Michelle and I wanted to do something to help the community, and we see a lot of people around here that are hungry and down and out, and we were once down and out and homeless, and it started with a Christmas ham I bought too much of because it was on sale, and decided I'd throw some beans with it and some onions and make a big old pot of soup, beans, and ham.
Good, you're fine.
And in the beginning, it was started out of my van. We didn't think about getting tables or anything like that, so I was serving out of the side of my van and dripping juice everywhere.
How long have you guys been doing this?
Since the day after Christmas.
So since the end of December.
Correct.
Every Saturday, you and your citizens group goes out and has a potluck.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So the story goes...
The actual Stone Soup story?
The actually Stone Soup story, so people can understand.
The one we learned in grade school. Well, a man came into town who was hungry, had no food, but he had a pebble he kept with him. I believe that's how the story went. And he promised everybody to make a big pot of soup that would feed the whole community. So he added some water to a pot and fire and threw his pebble in. And then somebody said, well, you know what? I've got some carrots. Let me throw in some carrots. Somebody else had some meat, and they threw in some meat, and it just built from there. At the end of the day, we had a big pot of soup, and everybody was fed. So that's essentially the message we're trying to get across, is it's everybody contributes. We all eat together, and it's a potluck, despite what the health department claims. Or
right, now the health department's been giving you guys some shakedown on that. And
oh, yeah, that's their job.
Yeah, their job to enforce the law.
Not really their job.
Well, they seem to think it is.
They
hey, Jesse, how you doing? Be Jesse White from the health department, who's tried to cooperate with us a little bit, but it's actually not him. It's people above him that are using him to bother us because we're making other programs look bad.
Well, I noticed that, looking at the WAC code on there, it lists the 5 things that you have to meet to become a potluck. And according to me, and the way I interpret the laws...
Oh, yeah, according to me.
Well, hey, you interpreted it the same way, too. One of the second requirement is that everybody's expected to bring something.
Expected.
That means they are expected. That doesn't mean it's required of them to bring something.
There's two different words with 2 different meanings, and you don't get to just pick and choose which words you want to have.
Right, and when we were talking with Jesse, because I'm a member of Stone Soup, and I go, every Saturday, and I stand next to you and help you out. But I tried to explain to him that, a lot of things we agree on and we will conform to, but the idea that we aren't a potluck is something that they are wrong on, because of the fact that every potluck I've ever been to, I've been encouraged to bring friends, and they've never had to bring anything. I've never been turned away from a potluck for not bringing a dish. And I noticed that the health department's official stance on this is that the idea of the citizens group is to feed the needy, and the needy don't have anything to contribute to the meal.
Yeah,
and that's kind of like a slap in the face.
I find that to be very disturbing, that they're expecting somebody who's obviously down and out to bring something. It's
right.
Dehumanizing, demeaning to, they're there. They're
and then to say they think that they don't have anything
no
to contribute.
What position they're in, they're still a proud person. There's a human in there.
I mean, there's a lot of those guys that show up and they help us set up and they help us take down.
They do. They're contributing.
And they are contributing. They just, aren't bringing what the health department is requiring, and that's food. And again, it's not a requirement.
The whole idea that one person out of how many people do you usually feed?
It varies anywhere from 30 to 130.
Which they're still trying. I still haven't seen that.
So
complaint.
one person out of 100, out of
Right.
30 to 130 people gets sick, and somehow it's Stone Soup's fault. It couldn't possibly have anything to do with, like the homeless people in general have, a worse
also,
health.
Curtis, part of the complaint was that we didn't wear gloves, which we do. If you go to Stone Soup, Cowlitz County, you'll see in every picture we're wearing
That's
gloves.
the Facebook site, Stone Soup.
Yes, the Facebook site. And, if you take your food handlers class, you'll learn that it takes 9 days for food poisoning, up to 9 days for food poisoning to affect somebody. So, essentially, they don't know where they got sick from, if this is even true, which I think it was fabricated for other reasons.
Right. The thing is that it's a potluck style meal, and we all had chicken, we all had food together, and just one person mysteriously gets sick, and then the health department's all over you again.
This whole idea of the food handlers cards to begin with, I think that is just such a waste of time and money for the citizen or the worker, and it's just nothing but a way to suck income from the worker for the county. Because if you look at that test, how easy is that test?
It's easy.
Very simple.
It's the easiest test in the world.
If you do it online, it's even easier.
If it had anything to do with actual food safety, it would be much more difficult.
It's common sense, and for the most part, we use it when we're out there. Mm-hmm. Again, you're being shook down. I think it's ridiculous that they're. The Daily News did a pretty good story on this and pointed out the fact that, these guys would be eating out of the garbage can on Saturdays and Sundays if it wasn't for the Stone Soup organization being out there and feeding them on Saturdays. By the way, Patrick and I both months ago went and got our food handler's card to satisfy the health department. Patrick got one, I got one, and we are the main servers of like the hot meats and the hot foods.
Yeah.
And then it's just crazy to see, what you had to go through. And then when he offered a hand washing station, to kind of offer an olive branch, I was thinking, like a hand washing station, like what you would see at like the fair or something, right? I didn't think it was going to be a Gatorade cooler with a push button spout. That was it.
That at the end of the day, we're not allowed to pour our dirty hand water, quote unquote, on the grass because that might hurt it.
The soapless water?
Yeah.
Said who?
The health department. Jesse White of the health department.
It might hurt the grass.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't hear that
By
part.
law, we're not allowed to pour what is considered gray water onto the ground.
But it's clear water. I mean, if you catch the water in the bucket, then it's with soap. That water is bad.
That water is very bad because
Yeah.
there's soap in it.
Right.
Ooh.
Anyway,
don't you just
more
love government? I mean, I can't tell you how much I just love regulations and rules and red tape and people telling you what you can and can't do, and it just makes absolutely no sense.
Right.
Like, I can see if you're just dumping out gray water all day long.
Right. But this is...
rolling up in an RV, dumping your gray water, on something. That's not what that is.
So, Patrick, you guys started out in December. How many people did you start with, and how many people were you feeding in the beginning?
The first day it was Michelle, my wife, and I, the van, and I think we fed 9 people at the Salvation Army parking lot and an additional 5 outside of Community House on Broadway.
And now you guys have been doing this since December, so, for quite a while now. How many volunteers are you up to, and how many people are you feeding on an average? I know the answer to this because I'm there with you.
On average, I'll say we feed about 60 people a pop.
Yeah.
Volunteers, it varies. There's about 9 of us, I think, and then there's also
well, there's a lot of people that drop off things, and they can't.
Right. If you can't talk to people that are actually there on Saturday.
The great thing about this group is that it has a lot of citizen support in the way that citizens can support you on their terms. Some people can't be here on Saturdays, because they have baseball or sports or something else going on. But you get a lot of donations. You get a lot of people that roll up their cars and they hand you just stuff out the window and say, "Here you go, man."
In the beginning, we did. We also did clothing. We got clothing donations, and now we've partnered up with Sea Hope, a project started by Beth Stern. And
she'll be on here in a few minutes.
A food coordinator
and a food coordinator.
If you want to segue into these two, or
well, we got a few more minutes in this one, and then we'll come back.
I'm just watching these.
So, what is the future? What is the future for Stone Soup? What would you like to see, and what would you like to? How big would you like to grow your organization?
I'd like to see a Sunday feed as well as a Saturday feed. I'd like to see it move into other counties, so it's not just Stone Soup, Cowlitz County. I'd like to see Clark County, King County. Let's go from there. Everybody knows somebody in one of those counties. Get something going. It can start off with a couple people in a pot of soup or goulash.
This is why I was confused about the health department coming down on you guys, too, is that there are other cities out there that do similar things to you, and they don't have any issues with, their health department shaking them down on feeding the homeless.
Well, welcome to Cowlitz County, Chris.
Yeah, it just goes to show you, and again, I'd like to refer everybody back to the TDN article where, the TDN came out and basically said these people would be eating out of garbage cans if it wasn't for you guys. You guys not only feed them on Saturday, but right now a lot of the volunteers bring stuff that they can take with them on Sundays, so they have food on Sundays as well.
Right.
So, I mean, you say you want to get a program going for Sunday, you've already got one going. I mean, every week there's enough, people bring stuff. It might not be a hot meal, like Saturday, but it's enough to get them through till, Monday when they can get food at one of the other programs.
Yeah. Even that one meal a day means a lot to them, whether it's breakfast bars or what have you.
Right.
So a point I'd like to make, though, is if somebody feels overwhelmed by, if you live in Vancouver or Seattle or what have you, you don't have to feed the entire town of Seattle or Vancouver.
Right.
You can just start with your neighborhood. That's what you do. Just break it up into little smaller bites, if you will.
Right. And now a lot of people think that, just on Saturdays you go out and that's your just one day to give back. But this takes up quite a bit of your time. I mean, you guys plan all week and organize all week, so it's just not Saturdays that you guys are doing this.
How much of your time does this take up besides Saturday?
I spend a couple hours a day on it, so
Yeah. So
it's not a full-time job, but it's sporadic.
It's service, and it's what you can do, and that's what's the important part, is that you're doing what you can. Yeah. That's what we want to see from all citizens. So
absolutely,
I find the group absolutely fantastic because it's all citizen driven. You don't have any boards, you don't have any people voting. You just have citizens acting and getting it done and taking care of it.
And using our own money and not having it ripped from our pockets by the government.
That's right.
And they decide what they do with our money.
Right.
We decide.
We are doing what we can. Yeah, volunteerism.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Is one of the the basis of libertarianism is volunteerism and not having to depend on your government to fix your problems.
Well, if you're going to wait for government, that's going to take forever.
Yeah, I mean...
And then when they do finally do something about it, it's all wrong because they didn't listen to the people, of course.
Well, just, look at the state of the nation and your state and your county and your city. It's probably not totally awesome.
I think I saw an online comment on Cowlitz County News Uncensored that says, hey, commissioners, just because citizens don't show up to your meetings doesn't mean that they support what you're doing.
Exactly.
And that I can't remember who said that comment online. We do read those comments, and a lot of them are very good. And that was one of them. Just because we can't make it to your meeting to bitch or to give our mind doesn't mean that we are in agreement with what you're doing.
Yeah, it's because they hold the meetings at 9 in the morning on a Tuesday.
That's right. They hold it for when younger working people cannot show up. to the meetings.
Interject for a second, Chris, weren't you telling me a few weeks ago that libertarianism or libertarian, it's the only party that accepts volunteerism in lieu
of payment and dues? Yes, it is. Well, I know that the Washington State Libertarian Party accepts